Something shifted for me about 2 years ago, and I couldn't explain it at first. I just noticed that I started doing things I'd wanted to do for a long time, but had been quietly putting off, saying things I'd wanted to say but had softened or swallowed.
What kind of things?
Small things, mostly. Wearing something I liked, even if I thought someone might find it odd. Disagreeing with someone in a meeting without apologizing first. Writing about something personal and posting it without editing out all the feeling. Singing in the car with the windows down.
Windows down is a real commitment.
Windows fully down. And what I realized, slowly over months, was that something had changed. Not in my circumstances, not in the people around me, in me. I had quietly stopped waiting for permission to be who I actually am.
You stopped caring what people think.
Mostly. I want to be careful about that phrase because it sounds arrogant when you say it out loud, like I don't care about anyone's opinion, but that's not it. That's not what happened.
What did happen?
I stopped letting imaginary people's imaginary opinions stop me from doing real things.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Anna. Welcome to Speak First English, where we speak first and think second.
And today we're talking about something that connects to every single episode we've ever made. Because underneath the most of the things we talk about, the fear of speaking English, the apology habit, the silence around dreams and struggles, underneath all of it is this: what will people think?
Today, we talk about what happens when you stop asking that question so often, and the English to describe that shift when it comes for you. Today's topic: what happens when you stop caring what people think?
And we want to say something at the beginning. We are not talking about becoming reckless. We're not talking about ignoring feedback. We're not talking about the kind of I don't care what anyone thinks that's actually a performance, a loud announcement that is itself designed to get a reaction from people.
The real version of this is quieter. It's not an announcement. It's a change in how you make decisions, a shift in whose voice gets the final say in what you do.
Because most people are running their lives with a committee in their head, an invisible committee of people, some real, some imagined, whose potential opinions shape almost every decision: what to say, what not to say, what to try, what to avoid, what to wear, what to believe out loud.
And the committee is exhausting, and it's rarely right. And today, we talk about what happens when you start to dismiss it.
Before we go further, please share this episode. Share it with someone who is held back more by what other people might think than by any actual obstacle, because the committee is usually more limiting than reality, and knowing that changes things.
Let's get into it.
Anna, let's start with the actual question. What does it mean to care what people think? Because we all care to some degree. That's human. That's social.
Right, and caring is not the enemy. We are social creatures. We are built to care about our tribe, about belonging, about how we're received. That's not weakness, that's evolution.
So the caring itself is not the problem.
The problem is when the caring becomes disproportionate, when the imagined opinion of someone who doesn't know you, or doesn't matter to you, or hasn't even thought about you becomes more important than your own judgment about your own life.
The stranger on the street who might raise an eyebrow, the colleague you've spoken to twice, the distant family member who has no real relationship with you, the anonymous commenter. These people have enormous power in most people's decision-making.
And when you think about it clearly, when you really examine the committee, you realize most of the members don't belong there.
Think of it like a board of directors. Imagine your life is a company, and the board makes the decisions. But somewhere along the way, strangers got seats on the board. People who have no investment in your success, people who don't know your vision, people who might not even like you very much.
And every major decision goes through them. Every creative idea, every conversation, every English sentence you might try runs past this board first.
So the shift is not about firing everyone, it's about auditing the board. Who actually deserves a seat? Who has real insight into your life, real investment in your well-being, real knowledge of who you are and what you're trying to build?
And usually, it's a much smaller group than the one currently voting. A few close people, maybe just one or two, maybe just yourself.
Audit the board. Keep the right people, remove the rest, and see how differently you move. Anna, let's start with something that shifted for you. Can you take us deeper into that? What actually changed? Not just what you started doing, but what changed inside that allowed it?
Yes, and I've thought about this a lot because it didn't happen from a decision. I didn't wake up and say, today I stop caring. It happened more like a tipping point, accumulated experience.
What tipped it?
I think I finally got tired, not of other people, of myself, of the version of myself that was always just slightly edited, slightly softened, slightly smaller than what I actually thought or felt or wanted to say.
The edited version.
The edited version. And editing is exhausting. It costs so much energy. The constant monitoring of every word before it comes out, every action before it happens, checking it against the committee, adjusting, softening, trimming.
And what made you stop?
I missed an opportunity, a real one, something I wanted to try and I didn't try it because I was too worried about what would happen if I failed publicly. And then someone else did it, someone less qualified, honestly, less prepared, and they did it imperfectly and it worked for them. And I watched it work, the thing I had wanted, and I realized I didn't fail because I wasn't good enough. I failed because I never started, because I pre-failed on behalf of the committee.
You failed the committee's imaginary version of the failure before anything actually happened.
Before anything real happened, and that was the moment. That specific loss of something real to something imaginary was the thing that finally shifted it.
And for English learners, I think this story is so directly connected because most of the people who freeze when speaking English, they're not freezing because they don't know the words, they're freezing because the committee is loud. They'll notice my accent, they'll think less of me, they'll judge my grammar.
And none of those people have said a word. They haven't judged anything. They haven't even noticed, but the committee has already voted, and the committee said no.
Today, we start to quiet the committee.
Let's get into the tips. Tip 1, and this is the most important exercise we can give you for this topic. Tip 1, audit the board.
We introduced the metaphor, now let's make it practical.
When you notice you're holding back from speaking, from trying, from saying something real, ask yourself one question. Who exactly am I afraid of?
Not in the abstract, specifically. Name them, or try to name them, because most of the time you can't fully name them. They're not real people with real opinions. They're composites, shadows, the idea of disapproval, not actual disapproval.
And naming them or failing to name them is itself revealing. If you can name the person, great. Ask yourself, does this person know me? Do I respect their judgment about this specific thing? Does their opinion actually matter to me?
And if the answer to any of those is no, they don't deserve a seat on the board. Remove them.
And if you can't name them, if the fear is just people or someone or they, then you're being governed by a fiction, by an imaginary audience that doesn't exist.
Here's the English for this self-examination. Who exactly would be bothered by this? Would someone I actually respect think less of me? Am I editing myself for real people or for imaginary ones?
These questions are uncomfortable, but they dissolve the committee faster than anything else because the committee only has power in the dark. In the light, when you examine it, it gets smaller.
Audit the board. Ask who's actually there. Keep the right people, remove the rest. Tip number 2, and this one is one of the most practical decision-making tools we know. Tip 2, use the 10-year test.
The 10-year test is simple. When you're about to let the committee stop you from doing something, ask, will this matter in 10 years?
Not in a dismissive way, genuinely. Will the thing I'm afraid of, the embarrassment, the judgment, the opinion, will it be real and significant in 10 years?
Almost always, the answer is no. The thing you're afraid of is not a 10-year problem. It's a 10-minute problem or a 10-day problem, but not 10 years.
And flipping the question, if I don't do this, will I regret it in 10 years, often reveals that the cost of not acting is much higher than the cost of acting imperfectly.
Think about the English speaker who was afraid to try speaking at a dinner party. In 10 years, does anyone at that dinner party remember whether their grammar was perfect? No. But in 10 years, do you remember the opportunities you missed because you stayed silent? Yes, those stay.
Regret has a much longer half-life than embarrassment. Embarrassment fades in days or weeks. Regret can last decades.
And the 10-year test makes this visible in the moment when you need it most.
In English, the phrases for this are, will this matter in 10 years? Which will I regret more, trying and failing or not trying at all? Is this a real risk or a temporary discomfort?
Real risk versus temporary discomfort. That distinction, once you have the language for it, changes how you evaluate every decision the committee tries to block.
The 10-year test. Use it, especially for the English moments, because in 10 years, you will not regret trying, you will only regret staying silent.
Tip number 3, and this one is about what you consume, not what you do. Tip 3, go on the opinion diet.
Tell us.
The committee in your head is fed. It doesn't sustain itself on nothing. It grows and gets louder when you consume a lot of other people's opinions. Social media, comment sections, gossip, comparison culture, the constant noise of what other people think about other people.
Because the more you consume that noise, the more your brain believes that everyone is being judged all the time, that everyone is watching, that opinions are being formed constantly about every action.
And the truth is, most people are far too busy thinking about themselves to spend much time thinking about you. The spotlight is smaller than we think.
Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. We overestimate how much other people notice us, observe us, remember us. We are not as central in others' minds as we are in our own.
The opinion diet means consciously reducing the input of other people's judgments, fewer comment sections, less comparison, less time reading what strangers think about other people doing things.
And more time in your own actual experience, with your own actual thoughts, asking yourself what you think, not what the algorithm reflects back.
In English, the language for this is, I've been limiting my time on social media. I notice it affects how much I worry about how I'm perceived. I find it helpful to check in with my own instincts before reading what others think. I've been trying to spend more time in direct experience and less time in curated comparison.
The opinion diet. Feed the committee less and watch it get quieter. Tip number 4, and this one is the action tip, the one where we stop thinking and start doing. Tip 4, do it scared.
Because here's the thing, even after auditing the board, even after the 10-year test, even after the opinion diet, there will still be moments of fear, of the committee voice, of the imaginary audience.
And the answer to that is not to wait for the fear to go away. The answer is to act while the fear is still there.
We've said this in other episodes. Courage comes after action, not before. But in the context of caring about opinions specifically, it has a particular shape.
Every time you do the thing you were afraid of and survive it, the committee gets one piece of evidence that it was wrong. We said this would be terrible, and it wasn't. We said they would judge you, and they didn't. We said you couldn't handle it, and you could.
And that evidence accumulates, and the committee's voice gets quieter, not because you silenced it, but because you repeatedly proved it wrong.
For English learners, this is the specific practice. Every time you speak in English when you're afraid, every time you try a phrase you're not sure is right, every time you ask a question in a room where everyone else seems more fluent, that is do it scared.
And the feedback from reality, which is almost always, that was fine, you survived, the world continued, is more powerful than any thought work.
Think of it like trust. You don't build trust by thinking about trustworthiness. You build it by showing up again and again, even when it's uncertain. The committee loses credibility the same way, one disproved prediction at a time.
Do it scared, not fearless, scared, and prove the committee wrong over and over, until its voice is just one small voice in a room that used to be full.
And our final tip, tip 5, and this one is the language of what happens after. What does it feel like? And how do you describe it when you do start to loosen the grip of other people's opinions? Tip 5, learn the freedom language.
Because this experience, this shift, is one of the most valuable things that can happen to a person, and being able to describe it in English, to recognize it in yourself and articulate it to others, deepens it, makes it more real, more owned.
Here is the language for what freedom from others' opinions feels like.
I've stopped editing myself quite so much, and it's surprisingly easy to breathe. The exhale of release, simple and true.
I realized I was trying to manage everyone's impression of me, and it was exhausting. I've stopped trying to control it. Honest naming of the old pattern and the new one.
I'm doing things I used to avoid because of what someone might think, and mostly, no one notices, or if they do, it doesn't matter. The reality check, the proof.
Something shifted when I stopped asking for permission to be who I am. Deep and real, the permission shift.
I'm still learning to care less about opinions that don't actually matter. It's a practice, but it's changing things. Honest about the process, not claiming arrival, just movement.
And one for the English learning context specifically. I speak English more freely now that I've stopped trying to be perfect before I open my mouth. The mistakes are part of the freedom.
The mistakes are part of the freedom. Write that down. Say it. Because in English learning, perfection is the enemy of freedom, and freedom is what fluency actually feels like.
The freedom language. Learn it, use it, describe your own shift in English when it comes.
Anna, today's words are about perception, freedom, and the experience of releasing other people's imaginary authority over your life. Let's look at them.
Yes, our word tour. These words will help you describe this experience and talk about it honestly and specifically in real English conversations. First word, perception.
Perception means the way something is understood, interpreted, or seen, especially by others. I spent years managing other people's perception of me. Or, once I stopped trying to control perception, I had so much more energy for actually doing things.
Next, authentic or authenticity.
Authentic means real, genuine, true to yourself, not performed or edited for an audience. Authenticity is that quality of being real. I'm trying to be more authentic in how I present myself, less edited, more honest. Or authenticity in conversation is rare and people feel it immediately.
Then, self-conscious.
Self-conscious means uncomfortably aware of yourself, your actions, your appearance, your speech, as if being observed and judged. I used to feel very self-conscious about my accent. I'm working on releasing that. Or, speaking a second language can make people feel self-conscious in ways they never expected.
We also said liberate or liberation.
To liberate means to free something or someone from a restriction. Liberation is that freedom. Stopping the constant self-editing was liberating. Or there's a specific kind of liberation that comes from doing something you've been afraid of and surviving it.
And approval.
Approval means acceptance, validation, or a positive opinion from others. I realized I was making decisions based on seeking approval, and I'm trying to make them based on my own values instead. Or, the need for approval is normal. The problem is when it becomes the main decision maker.
And one more, boundary.
A boundary in this context means a limit on how much other people's opinions influence your inner world and your decisions. I'm learning to have better boundaries around whose opinions I take seriously. Or, setting a boundary around social media helped me quiet the committee in my head.
Your speaking gym challenge today, think of one thing you've been holding back because of what someone might think. Name it in English. Write it in the comments. You don't have to do it, just name it, because naming it is the first audit.
Before we finish, 4 things to take away from today.
Step 1. Audit the board. The next time you feel held back, ask, who exactly am I afraid of? Name them. Test whether they actually belong on your board.
Step 2. Use the 10 years test. For one decision you've been avoiding, ask, will this matter in 10 years? Will I regret not doing it?
Step 3. Go on the opinion diet. For 1 week, reduce the amount of time you spend consuming other people's opinions about other people, and notice what changes in how loud your own committee is.
And step 4. Do it scared. One thing, this week, that you've been holding yourself out of doing because of the committee. Do it, imperfectly, and notice what actually happens.
Quick recap of our 5 tips.
Tip 1. Audit the board. Who's actually there? Remove the strangers, keep the people who know and love you.
Tip 2. The 10 years test. Regret lasts longer than embarrassment.
Always ask which you'd rather carry.
Tip 3. The opinion diet. Feed the committee less. Social media, comparison culture, other people's judgment. Reduce the input. Watch the committee shrink.
Tip 4. Do it scared, not fearlessly, scared, and prove the committee wrong, one disproved prediction at a time.
Tip 5. The freedom language. I've stopped editing myself quite so much, and it's surprisingly easy to breathe. Learn the words for what freedom from opinions actually feels like.
Our question for today.
What is one thing you stopped doing or never started because of what someone might think? Write it in the comments, in English. Just name it, because the committee only votes in silence, and naming the thing out loud in public is itself a small act of freedom.
You are not as watched as you think. You are not as judged as you fear. And the opinions you're most afraid of, they usually never come. The things that hold you back are almost always imaginary.
Almost, but not entirely, so audit carefully, remove generously, and keep only the people whose voices you actually trust.
This was Speak First English.
Until next time, speak first, think second, and please say the thing, do the thing, try the thing. The committee was never as powerful as you thought. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.